Hello. For my religious tradition journal this week, I witnessed a service of the Church of Latter-day Saints, also known as the Church of the Mormonism Faith. Now, before I witnessed this service, we learned more about it in class, and therefore I had more of an understanding on the faith. However, I still had my prejudgments about this faith, mainly due to the practices of having multiple spouses in some cases. I believe this to be morally wrong, and therefore I've always had something against the Mormonism faith. I've never felt that it was truly a good faith to follow, because I've always felt that if you can have multiple spouses, what is the faith there? However, after learning more about it in class and watching a service of the Mormonism faith, I definitely have gained more of an understanding of the faith, and my judgments have definitely changed. This service resembled a lot of a Roman Catholic faith in the way that the church was set up. The congregation, typically families, sat in pews similar to how I would sit in pews back at home. The priest at my church sits in the front, similar to how the preachers in the Mormonism faith sit in front of the church as well. The main resemblance that I found that I was not expecting in this service was the fact that Mormons do celebrate the Eucharist as a sacrament. Now, they celebrate it differently. They pass it along down the pews, as I'm used to just walking up and taking the Eucharist. However, the principles are still the same. This is the body and blood of Christ. And therefore, I found a great connection in that and a great respect due to the fact that they take the sacraments. The other services that I witnessed, the Hinduism faith and the Islamic faith, surely do not practice these sacraments, and therefore it was refreshing to see another faith do the same as mine. Now, the way the service was set up was there were many preachers that were preaching, and they gave preaches of about 10 minutes each based on their findings of religious freedom. They constantly referred back to the Book of Mormon and certain scriptures. Now, I have never read the Book of Mormon. However, they constantly were citing out what scripture it was from, and therefore that's how I drew connections to them citing the Book of Mormon. After they were done preaching, hymns were sung in the background with a church choir, similar to my church, and the congregation was invited to sing, similar to mine. Now, these similarities in the service to the Roman Catholic faith, it was definitely refreshing to see these. But also what was even more refreshing was what was referred to before the service even started. The Mormonism faith referenced all the amounts of community service that they do to the community. And this brought up many similarities to what my church does. We always make it a priority to give back to the community before giving to ourselves. It was also mentioned that students of the Mormonism faith typically go to Sunday school to learn scriptures. And this really drew a connection with me, as I myself went to Sunday school from kindergarten to 8th grade. So really, while the Mormonism faith does have some practices and beliefs that are completely wrong in my opinion, there are definitely parts of it that are similarities to my faith, and therefore my judgments are definitely lowered now. While I still do not necessarily agree with everything that happens in the religion, I can come to respect it now, as I see it as not as crazy as I once thought it was. The similarities that I'm able to pull out from the Mormonism faith and the Roman Catholic faith definitely show me that we're not so different after all. We can come to more of an understanding, even if I necessarily don't agree with some of the practices. The main beliefs are still there. They love their God and they want to worship Him, and they want to worship Him in the way that they feel comfortable. I can respect that, and therefore I've gained more of a respect for the faith.